Hey guys, hope you had a good week. Kind of continuing as a sequel to what we were discussing last week about showing gratitude for all the blessings in our life. How do we actually accept blessing without it letting affect us negatively? You know, they tell the joke of the guy who's late for a meeting and looking for a parking spot. And he's saying, God, you gotta help me find a parking spot. I'm really late for an important meeting. And he's circling, can't find one. And then he says, God, I'll give charity. Please help me. Suddenly a car pulls out from a parking spot and he says, nah, never mind, God, I found one. And while, it makes us smile, there's a lesson here. That how many times when we experience good things happening to us, we have a hard time accepting it. Or to the other way, we accept it and we say, we were very deserving of it. It's not really a gift, and we become arrogant. Sometimes we see people who have a lot of success in life, who came from a really good background and were really humble, and then with their wealth and newfound success, they can become arrogant in their success. So how do we accept blessings in our life without it having a negative impact on us? Well, tomorrow is the 19th of Kislev, this Shabbos, and it's a big Hasidic holiday. This is the day that the first Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi, was released from prison. And he's the founder of the Chabad movement, and he was arrested on trumped-up charges of anti-government activity, and this was a huge day of celebration for the movement. And he wrote a letter to his followers expressing his joy, and he took a lesson from this week's Torah portion, which really speaks to this idea of accepting blessing in our life. This week's Torah portion, Parshat Vayishlach, we have Yaakov, returning to the land of Israel after so many years away. He had gotten married, amassed a huge amount of wealth, and now he's returning home. And he gets a message that his brother Esav, who had been really upset at him for stealing his blessing, was coming to greet him. And he wasn't coming, in a brotherly fashion. He was coming with an army of 400 soldiers. And Jacob was worried. And he did three things. The first thing he did was pray to God. The second thing was send a huge gift to Esav ahead of him. And the third thing was to separate his family into two camps in case he was attacked. But the Alter Rebbe notes the prayer that Jacob said to God. And Jacob was worried, and he turned to God and said, during my time at Lavan, I have become small from all the favors that you have shown me. At first glance, it seems that Yaakov was worried that he had used up all his credit with God. God had been so kind to him at Lavan and protected him from his father-in-law's trickery and had blessed him with a huge amount of wealth. And he was worried, did I use up all my credit? But the Alter Rebbe says it's not exactly what Yaakov was worried about. You see, Yaakov says, I was small. Meaning he was saying that all the blessings you showed me made me more humble. Similar to when somebody's in the presence of nobility or royalty, that sense of awe, the closer you get to somebody royal, the smaller you feel. Yaakov was saying is that with each blessing that he received, he felt closer to God. And with that closeness, he felt smaller. And that humility, he was actually wondering, he had a higher standard for himself now. The same way when you're in the presence of nobility or royalty, you're going to act a lot better than you do when you're outside the palace. Yaakov was saying, the closer I got, the higher standard I had for myself. And he was wondering if he had lived up to that standard. And while we know the end of the story where God says, God does, the meeting between the brothers goes well, and he was living up to his standard, and God took care of him, the greater message here is how we see it when Jacob was blessed by God. He took it with humility. It made him feel closer to God. Instead of corrupting him, it made him have a higher standard for himself. When we experience goodness in our life, we should experience it in a way where we feel closer. Look what God's doing for me. And it doesn't have to be something major. All the small good things that take place in our life. And with that closeness, it should make us feel more humble, more appreciative. And it should also make us feel like I should act in a way befitting somebody who is blessed by God. So now this is all easier said than done, but I'm going to work on myself, and I bless each of you to work on yourselves to be accepting of the goodness and the goodness in our lives, and let it have a positive effect on us. Shabbat Shalom.